Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hope Warrior Project podcast. We are posting new content every Wednesday to help you get over that midweek hump. So that's why we were calling it before the Hopeful Hump Day podcast, but I guess you can listen to it at any time. So we're kind of pulling away from that for now. But today is no different. We have another incredible story to share with you. We have Janine with us today, and are you ready for this? Prepare your hearts, no pun intended, but she literally has somebody else's heart beating inside of her right now, keeping her alive. And as amazing and beautiful that is, it was quite the process, and she was really not prepared for what comes after, I guess. Leading up to that transplant, obviously scary and confusing time. But once it was done and she was awake, she was really not prepared for the whole rebuilding and healing process, which was the real challenge in her story. And she shared with us that there were times where she thought, is this even worth it? That's how unbearable it was some days. And she was really, really impatient with the process, with the healing process, how long it was taking and how little she was able to do for herself. But then she realized that she couldn't do much for her physical body besides, rest and surrender to a lot of the care of other people. But there was a lot that she could do for her mind, for her mindset, for her outlook on her situation. And she noticed that the more she focused on that, the easier the other stuff got. So she just has so much wisdom and insight to share with you guys. So I'm so excited to have Janine with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's wonderful to be here on this wonderful podcast you guys have. Sharing my story for the 100th time, probably no, but it means a lot. And if it could help other people, then I'm so happy to share it.
We are super happy to have you on here, and what a story you have. I think the part I can relate to is the impatience, right? Feeling impatient with something. So probably a lot of us can relate to that, but really when you think about what you went through and kind of the surprise, I guess, of what this recovery was like afterwards and not expecting that, can you take us back to that point? How were things? How were you feeling?
That back then?
Yeah, after the surgery, when you were at your worst point.
Well, the thing is that, you get whisked in for the surgery, oh, I'm getting a heart transplant. I'm getting my heart. Yay. Oh my gosh, I'm getting my heart. And you get whisked in and you're thinking, okay, good. I'm getting my heart. Oh, yay. Things are going to be so wonderful, and then, you wake up or come to literally a couple weeks later, and all of a sudden there you are, on a bed, just, tubes in you, intubated, catheterized, kidney dialysis, and you're like, okay, what happened, and then you start to, ask your sisters questions. I remember asking my sister, how did I get here? You just lose time. You just lose it. And, then, as time goes on, you start to discover more things like, I can't walk. I can barely move my arms and I can't eat. So you have to start dealing with all of that. And it is very rough, but, as you come to terms with those things, you go through them one by one. And yes, you get very anxious and very, impatient, like, oh my God, am I never going to be able to walk again? Why do I feel so terrible? This was supposed to make me feel better and I feel worse. Why did I do this? So that's where you come after the initial surgery and whatnot.
So real quick, I wanted to step back for just a second. So when you say you were whisked in, like this was something that kind of like all of a sudden they're like, wow, we got to get her. I mean, how did it lead up to?
Well,
this?
what happened was my heart was failing, and it started going down, 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 down. I had been admitted to Northwestern for a couple of weeks to get what they call, you have to get, gosh, I can't think of the word now, I'm missing, I can't think of the word.
Pre-approved?
You have to get all kinds of tests. Yes, pre-approved, basically pre-approved for your surgery to see if you're healthy enough to get your chest open and put a new heart in there, So while I was doing that, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and then, sent home. And then I was just kept getting worse. I couldn't walk 10 feet without stopping and sitting down, without gasping for air. And my fluid was retaining really awfully. So they set me back in, and literally now I'll just quickly give you my injection fraction, which is the rate at which your heart is compressed. Normal injection fraction is like 60 to 75%. When I got my heart transplant, it was like 13%. So I was failing really quickly. So they had to put me up on the critical list. So I got my heart in about 4 days, which
That's
was
amazing.
the first heart. I did have a heart after 2 days, but the surgeons were concerned because my white blood cell count was elevated and they didn't want to operate on me. However, the cardiologists were like, let's get her the heart. Let's get her the heart. They lost. The cardiologist lost. And then 2 days later, I got the heart that I have right now. It's doing so wonderfully that I just got an echo on 2 days ago and it's at 60%. So now that I gave you the range, I'm right there. So that's really exciting. So
Yes.
that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like things progressed pretty quickly overall.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
I was going downhill. I mean, my doctor, who I love to pieces, who will be my favorite doctor ever in my life, she was always Dr. Vorovich. I will mention her name. She was honest with me and right straightforward. And she said, Janine, you had one foot in the coffin and one on the banana peel. I said, thanks, appreciate that. But we laughed. We had to laugh, but she's like, and every time after I went into the hospital, she's like, get out of here, get out of here. Don't come back. I don't want to see you back. So there was really good fun times and we had to put laughter in there. We had to,
So the thing that I would love to highlight, Janine, about what you said that I think a lot of people can relate to, and I certainly can, is this idea of, as human beings, I think when we look at issues or challenges that we're coming up against, we want to know, like, where's the finish line? Like, where can I, be done with this? And we want a clear path too. And like, so in your circumstance, like when you say like, oh, I got the heart, yay, it's almost like, yeah, the transplant, that's what I need. That's what's going to heal me. And then after that, I can like move on to the next thing. But obviously, I mean, anybody would understand that, yes, there needs to be some sort of healing process. It's a major, major surgery. But, obviously you weren't expecting what it actually was. And I mean, for me, I've never had, anything close to a similar circumstance, but I can relate in the fact that like I've gone up against really big challenges in my life and I've put in the work to quote unquote fix them. And then it's so like frustrating when it comes up again and it comes up again. And then there's more that I need to do to work towards that same problem, because I just want to be done with it and move on to because there's so many challenges in life, right? That like revisiting the same one is it's draining. But at the same time, I was listening to the Jay Shetty book the other day, and he was talking about how like stress and tension it serves a purpose and it's needed. And he was saying how they like built this perfect biodome because they wanted to like build this ecosystem or whatever that was perfect. So they had perfect water, perfect like sun ratios, perfect temperature, everything. And then the trees, when they hit a certain height, they would just fall over.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah. And everything was perfect, right? So they were like, what's going on? And then they realized that what they hadn't thought about was like wind and like storm and tension that trees in the regular world have to deal with all the time. And that's something that's actually needed for them to like build stronger roots and to just be stronger just on their own. So I don't know, I found that encouraging, and I thought of you yesterday when I was listening to that, because it's like, when somebody undergoes like this such a huge medical procedure, it's like you almost want to be like, okay, it's done, like give the person a break. But then it's like a process, just like everything else,
Yeah, exactly.
so. But what I did want to ask you is, because I know that you shared with me and Stephanie that like it was a really hard process, and that there were days, and like you said just a few moments ago, that you were like, what did I do? Like, was this even worth it? Because I thought I was going to feel better, and I feel 100 times worse. I can't even walk, eat, whatever. I'm attached to all this stuff. So what, I guess, what is it that shifted how you were feeling about the situation, because you were feeling pretty hopeless, right? And then,
Well, yeah, I guess hopeless is a good word to use because, after the transplant, I was hospitalized 4 times, and one was for a rejection, which is supposedly normal at 3 months. You get treated with steroids, and it worked and whatnot. But then I had a couple of flu, influenza B that I was hospitalized for, and I had to be, for me, 100 degree temperature, and I'm whisked off to the hospital. It's just sucks. And so, with that, keep on going into the hospital for 5, 10 days at a time, and just turning into this beast of because I'm not a beast, but I turned into a beast because I was so tired of it. And I would, and again, like you said, well, I don't feel any better. I feel worse. Did I make a mistake? Should I just let nature run its course? And, because I did ask my doctor, if I don't get this heart transplant, how much time do I have to live? And he straightforward looked at me and he said 2 to 4 years. So I had that to deal with. And okay, then you have, I don't know how many years. People go 20 years with a heart transplant. I've read, not that I read much because I don't like to read about side effects and whatnot. I've heard 11, 12 years with people having transplants. So I'm like, okay, 2 years, 12 years, I guess I'll take the 12 years. But me turning around was, I was starting to feel a little bit better physically. And then I had to catch up mentally. So it was like, okay, you're feeling better physically. Now you got to change your mindset. You got to keep that going. You got to keep saying, okay, I'm getting better. I'm feeling better. I am not going to go back to that pit again, where I was, where I just dark nights where I cried myself to sleep and begged God to take me. I'll admit it, I did, because I was like, this isn't the life that I want. So somehow he heard me, and excuse me, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
And somehow he heard me, and now I think I'm on the road to recovery. I'm actually writing a book. And in my book, I have part of it where it says nurses, doctors, food service, and it says nurses. And I give the 3 types of nurses. And the one nurse is the in and out nurse. The second nurse is the nurse that you tell all your sob stories to. And the third nurse is the one that whips you into shape. And I say, believe me, you need this nurse. Because I had one nurse that she was mean. And I was like, why is she so mean to me? I need help. And she made me realize that I had to fight, even though it hurt, get up, try to walk, because it hurt and I didn't want to do it, but she made me.
Yeah.
So
that's so funny. Like the closest thing I can relate to is like childbirth. Like just
well, that's kind of huge, Lydia.
but when you're talking about being in the hospital, like that's where my mind goes, and I can relate to the nurse thing. Like you need the nurse that just looks at you and is like, get out of that mindset.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Oh, this is so terrible. Like you need somebody.
Put your big girl pants on.
Totally. I had that nurse that was like, okay, stop it, just push. Like.
Yes, but you need that nurse, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. That was because there was a shift change when I believe it was with Stella, the first one. And the first nurse was like really like, okay, like, we're good. And nothing was happening. She was not coming out. And then there was like a because I was pushing for like 2 hours. It was ridiculous.
Oh my God.
And then they switched, and then this chick comes in and started yelling at me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
But it worked, right? You had her, I bet, right away.
Yeah, we never grow up. We always need, when you're little, you need your parents to yell at you. Like,
Yes.
somebody to yell at you sometimes. You just do.
Exactly. Yeah. They used to have to put me in the chair that helped you stand. It would go up between your legs and pick you up. And I'd be like, I don't want to go in that chair. I don't like the way it feels. Get me out. But again, I had to do it, so I did what I had to do.
So if there's, one thing, thinking about what you've shared today and what you've been through and how you were able to come through this very difficult time that you weren't expecting after the surgery and where you are today, for the people that are listening, what is one thing that you would really want them to take away from your story?
The biggest thing that I would like them to take away from this is that it will get better. I was just the poster child of it's never going to get better. I'm going to feel like this for the rest of my life. Why can't I walk? I'll never run again, which, well, I still haven't ran, but that's okay. I'm not going to go to the bathroom again. I'm not going to, be like a normal person. I'm not going to drive. Guess what? I do all those things now, and it will get better. Just trust in it. Trust in your mind. Keep as positive as you can. And again, it's not going to work every time, but if you can have more positive than negative, then you're winning.
Yes. Have a little patience too, right?
Yes.
Going back
which
to
I don't.
initial thought of being impatient. We all get impatient, but knowing it.
Oh, and I'm very impatient. That has taught me more patience than you can ever imagine.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next week for another episode on our podcast. Goodbye, everyone.